Hi, my name is Ron Shuali, and this is the Empowered Educator. If I say up, you say. If I say left, you say. If I say stop, you say. Did you say the opposite of all of them? Congratulations, you all have oppositional defiance disorder. Yay, give yourselves a round of applause. I'm just teasing. But think about this. Why is it that when I said up, you didn't say stairs? You didn't say yours? Why is it when I said left, you said right? You didn't say handed. Why is it when I said stop, you said go, as opposed to in the name of love, before you break my heart? Consider, try on that human beings are designed to be initially oppositional. Why is that? Well, what's the first word that we hear as little kids? We're running over, about to fall down a flight of stairs. We're about to play with the dog's teeth. We're almost about to touch a flame or something hot on the fire. And what do we hear an adult go? No, 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 no. Like just like that. And then that becomes ingrained in our brains. So as a human being, we don't even realize that we have a lot of stuck patterns that exist inside our subconscious that run us on a daily basis that unfortunately affect the kids and the adults in our lives. For example, how many of you ever go into a store and the person that their job is to help you comes up to you and says, "Hi, can I help you find something?" And what do you say? Exactly, right? Nah, I'm good, it's okay. And then the person walks away like you're the fifth person that didn't let me help them. And then you're thinking as they walked away, well, I really have no idea where anything is. You're walking around the Walmart, it's insane, all the stuff that's there. But our brains don't allow us to have access to just accepting help initially because of the way that we're designed. Think about it. If I say I don't want to hear another peep out of you, what do you want to do, right? How many of you said peep? Right? If I say to you right now, you're not allowed to raise your hands in the air, what do you want to do? What are you thinking about doing? Were you thinking about raising your hands in the air before? Probably not. But now notice what happens in your body in 3, 2, 1. You can put your hands up if you want. Now, how many of you don't care? That's the design of being a human being, and there's nothing wrong with it. What I'm going to take you through is an experience for you to really understand what goes on in your brain, how you can catch yourself getting into these situations, and hopefully if this workshop makes an impact for you, you'll be able to break out of some of your stuck oppositional patterns so that you can have a better connection with some of the kids and some of the adults in your life. Ready? Let's do the Empowered Educator. And the first thing that we're going to talk about is how to create a win-win environment. Win-win environment, what does that mean? Some of you may say. Well, watch this video and I'll show you. Win-win. Let's talk about what it means to have a win-win environment and have win-win relationships and conversations. So win-win in my world is how we have a greater connection with our kids, with the parents of our kids, with the adults in our lives. And the problem is that most of us have been trained for somebody to win, someone has to what? Lose, exactly. But that doesn't benefit everybody, and my world is about figuring out how to benefit everybody. For example, win-lose is when a child comes up to you with a need or a concern, and they say to you, I need this, Bobby took my toy, I want this, and then the automatic reaction of the adult is, you get what you get and you don't get upset. Or I've heard, you get what you get, you don't throw a fit. And the child is left there without basically anything happening, any information. He or she wasn't helped, and the teacher was right. And when the teacher felt like she was right, she released dopamine, oxytocin, endorphins, and serotonin into her body, and she created a win-lose. She won, the child lost. You can do another way. A child can come up to you and go, I don't love you. And the teacher can go, oh my goodness, what do you mean? And get all upset. And the child wins because he sees how the teacher responds and knows he can say that again to get a reaction. Or then the teacher loses because that's the way that she responds. Or you can create a win-win where a child goes up to you and says, I don't love you. And you can look at the child and go, well, it's okay if you don't love me today. I love you. What do you want to work on? And then all of a sudden you go over to a center and nothing happens except the child is heard and you still have love for the child and connect with them. So that's choosing to be win-win only if you catch yourself about to say you get what you get and you don't get upset and then go, oh, that's going to create win-lose. So let me choose win-win, which usually starts with taking a breath and then looking at how we can benefit the other person. So what I want you to do is I want you to try to watch 3 kids at once during this video. First, you're going to see number 10. Here he is, number 10. Okay, so number 10 is all the way at the top left, and he's the one that is stuck in the traditional programming that most of us are. Get the ball in the basket. For his blue team to win, the white team has to lose. So when he gets a ball into the basket, he wins, the blue team wins, the white team loses. The parents of the blue team feel good. The parents of the white team feel bad, if at all. I'm just assuming how they would feel, okay? Now, as you're watching, watch number 50 and number 0. Now, number 50, he's in the world of win-win, and you'll see why. Now, number 50 is trying to help number 0 get the ball in the basket. Keep an eye on number 10. The entire time, number 10 sees what happens and what's happening. I'm going to tell you, the first time the little kid doesn't make it, number 0, number 10 could have, if he was outside of the stuck pattern, he could have given the ball to number 0 like number 50 does the second time, but he doesn't. He's stuck in the program, got to get the ball in the hoop. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with it, there's nothing right with that. People like that are the ones that are focused on money and what money means and getting more money and getting no more money, as opposed to creating a life where they could help other people and in return they get financial restitution, or they get money back, as opposed to, you know, like a sales position. That's win-lose, because usually the salesperson gets the benefit, the other person loses. See, number 10 could have handed the ball right to number 0 and number 50. Now look what number 50 does to take charge, to be a commander, to take charge of this environment. Here we go. Let's give the ball back to number 0. Let's try to create win-win. Same thing. Watch number 10. The second the ball leaves, watch his response. How fast he's stuck in the win-lose mentality. See that flinch? Oh my God, he just moved. He didn't assume that the ball was going into the net and the kid would have a point. He assumed that he would have to move because he assumed that the kid would miss the shot and he would rebound it. So now, the ball goes into the hoop. The white team cheers. The blue team cheers. The people on both sides of the court cheer. Everybody feels good, especially number 0, because number 10 created win-win. So my request of you is, as we're going through this program, choose, do I want to have a win-lose conversation with my kids, or do I want to have a win-win conversation? A win-lose conversation is a conversation about you being right, as opposed to letting your child be the way that they are, instead of them being the way that you think they should be. And when they say the word should, you're creating an expectation, and this is what expectations are all about. Watch the next video. How many of you have ever created an expectation for another human being, never shared the expectation with them, and when they don't fulfill the expectation that they know nothing about, who do we get mad at? Them, obviously, of course. But how does that make sense? They don't know what we want them to do, and they are not psychic, so there's no way for them to know what we want. How many of you have expectations of people remembering something that you told them years ago? The crazy part about how we've been grown to be conditioned in certain patterns is that we, for some reason, believe that other people know what we want them to do and know what we want them to say. Parents create expectations for teachers to teach their kids discipline, the rules, structure, respect, so that when they come home, all of a sudden, these kids are going to be like the kids from Mary Poppins, like, hello, mother, hello, father, may I do extra chores for you today? It's not a thing. Parents have expectations of schools to keep them safe, and schools are not doing that as much with bullying policies. So parents can alleviate expectations and start handling things themselves with conversations with their kids, and then it becomes a win-win. Expectations are created in our mind. How many of you have an expectation in a classroom or at home that your child will sit a certain way, and you expect them to sit a certain way for a certain amount of time, and maybe you didn't tell them? Maybe they can't sit like that. Maybe they're doing something, and then something that they're watching, or maybe you're talking to them, they're getting so engaged that then they have to roll onto their belly and put their hands like this because maybe it's helping them pay attention more. But then your brain kicks on and goes, well, they shouldn't be like that. And when you say the word should, you're setting yourself up for upset. He shouldn't be this way. She shouldn't be this way. How many of you drive to work in the morning and you say there shouldn't be traffic, and there's traffic every day? As human beings, to alleviate ourselves of half of the upset that we create for ourselves, if you catch yourself creating an expectation by saying or thinking the word should, just understand you're shoulding all over yourself. Shoulding. S-H-O-U-L-D-I-N-G. When you say the word should, I'm thinking right now as I'm doing this chair shouldn't be creaking. And I could choose to get upset at it. But I don't want to take away my joy and happiness, so instead of saying the word should, I replace it with the word could. Because I found that when you take a should and replace it with the could, your energy and your feeling towards this emotion or this person changes for good and changes for your benefit. This chair shouldn't be creaking. This chair could not be creaking. And then all of a sudden the upset. Think about one person in your life. Think about a child. And think about your child, especially the one that you're interested in learning behavior mastery for, so that you can help them master their emotions while you master yourself. And think about them. What expectation did you create for them? Say their name out loud, say should, and then whatever expectation you have for them. Pause. Notice how you feel. Ready, set, do it. How do you feel? Check in with yourself. And you're allowed to feel any way that you want. Now, say the word could instead in that same sentence, and then check in with yourself and see and feel how you feel. Ready? Could. Go. How do you feel? Do you feel better than before, or do you feel worse? If you feel better saying the word could, then I offer you take that on, especially when we go through this program and the voice in your head. Yes, that voice, the one that said what voice, that voice goes things like, well, it should be this way, it should be that way, I was expecting this program to be like this, I was expecting this to be like that, it should be different. Notice that the expectations that you're creating are not benefiting you. And if you see something that's not benefiting you, if you take your finger, you put it on a fire, you get burned. You're not going to take your finger, put it on a fire again, because it doesn't benefit you. So just consider that when you create an expectation and say the word should, change it to could, and you'll notice the upset and the anguish leave your body. And the last thing I want you to think about before we move on, how do you think the people in your life that you're creating expectations for feel when you put those expectations on them that has nothing to do with them? And how would they want you to be towards them? how are you when somebody in your life creates an expectation for you that A, you can't fulfill, or B, you don't want to fulfill because it's not something you want to do? And then how would you like them to be towards you? Win-win. Expectations. Don't shit on yourself. You deserve better. Expectations are just one of the many stuck patterns that exist inside of us, especially if we come from an education background. Working in preschools for over 15 years, I would be setting up my yoga classes, and I would hear so many interesting things that people would say to the kids that don't make sense and are win-lose, even though the teachers don't even know that they're doing that. How many of you have ever said this to your kid? Are you making good choices today? Was that a good choice? And the kid looks around the room. There's 19 other kids doing what they're supposed to be doing, and he or she has all your attention. And their brain, they're going, 100%. I'm making good choices. I'm getting all the attention. It's not working for you, but it's working for them. What about this one? Finish this sentence. You get what you get. Right, and you don't get a fit or you don't get upset, whatever the situation is. Interesting. That's something that just flies right out of our mouths sometimes. But it's not win-win. Imagine you going to a restaurant. Think about your favorite restaurant that you want to go to. Think about your favorite meal. And then you're excited. You've been thinking about this meal at the restaurant the whole entire day. And now you order your food. You're chatting with your friends or your family. And then the waiter brings everybody their food. And instead of the steak or the lobster or the pasta or whatever you ordered, they put in front of you your tofu salad. I said tofu salad because there's no way that could be somebody's favorite meal in the world. And you look at the waiter as respectfully as possible and go, excuse me, I didn't order this. I ordered the steak or the lobster. And the waiter looks at you and says, you get what you get and you don't get upset, and then walks away. How you feeling? You don't like that, do you? Of course not. Why don't you like that? I'm going to read your minds. How many of you said it had something to do with money? Right? Oh, I paid my $20, $30 for this meal. Well, don't the kids, or technically the parents of the kids, or somebody pays for it? The kids are your customers. So why is it okay for you to say to them, you get what you get and you don't get upset, and you're not okay with that? It's just a human thing. If you start realizing a lot of the words and a lot of the phrases that you say to your kids that you're not okay with, you'll start shifting the way that you communicate with them and create more win-win environments. What about this one? How many of you have ever said to one of your kids, are you being a good listener today? Do you have your listening ears on? You're not listening to me. And the kid's looking at you like, what are you talking about? Like, here, I have my court stenographer. And I repeat, you said you don't have your listening ears on. You're not being a good listener. Why aren't you listening to me? Why is it that we say to the kids, they're not listening to us? They're not listening to us. You have the one kid that's across the room that now it's time to clean up, and you're saying, Joey, come on, time to clean up, and he's still doing it. And in your brain you go, oh, he's not being a good listener. But he listens all the time. He hears everything that you say. He hears you when you're in the corner of the classroom where the camera can't see you, and you're voice texting to your friends or whatever it is. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to blow your spot. So I want you to consider that these kids are always listening. They're just choosing not to follow your direction because it doesn't benefit them. How many of you have somebody at home that you say doesn't listen to you? And if you really took a breath and thought about it, you know they do listen to you. They just don't want to do what you tell them to do because it doesn't benefit them. And that's along the lines of understanding human behavior. You know, if I tell you you're not allowed to raise your hands in the air right now, you want to do it. If I tell you that you don't, or you're not allowed to, or you're allowed to, you just want to do the opposite. If I say I don't want to hear another peep out of you, what do you want to do? You want to say peep. We're humans. It's okay. It's that oppositional part that comes up. And remember, I talked about in the beginning, I mean, I've never done a workshop or a training where when I actually said up, somebody agreed with me. I've never done a workshop or a training when I said left, somebody agreed with me. It's always been the opposite. It's a pattern that we're so stuck in. What about this one? How many of you ever said this to your kids? No thank you, no thank you, no thank you. And the kid's looking at you like, no thank you what? No, what's happening? No thank you. I don't understand what's going on here. These are just phrases that just come out of our mouths because we've been programmed to do the way that other people have programmed. So I offer you an opportunity to choose next time you hear the words or you're about to say you get what you get and you don't get upset. Are you making good choices? Do you have your listening ears on? All these automatic phrases that don't create a win-win environment. I offer you a chance to break that pattern and consider having a different conversation so that it actually benefits the kids and you. That's the challenging part. I'm going to show you a video about how the brain works, and I want to see your opinion on if you are the way that this video is. Meaning, you're going to see two people. You're going to see Michael Scott from The Office, and you're going to see Dwight Schrute. And my question is going to be, which one are you? So this is one of my favorite videos to show. This is The Office. And if you've ever seen The Office, on the left is the gentleman known as Michael Scott. He is the manager of the Dunder Mifflin Paper Company, the regional manager. And then on the right, you have Dwight Schrute, played by Rainn Wilson, who is the assistant regional manager. Assistant to the regional manager. And they're on their way back from a sales call, and they have one more sales call to go. Now, on the bottom right down there in the middle, if you look at that little square thing, that is what's called a TomTom or a Garmin. Back in the day, that was the original GPS for those of you that are younger that don't even know what that is. And what we used to do is take that GPS, and every 6 months we would bring it into a store and get it updated so that it had the current maps. I know it wasn't like a downloading like there is right now. Crazy concept. Now, what's going to happen is Michael and Dwight are driving to another sales meeting, and what's going to happen is you're going to see Michael as the typical 95% of human beings who just listen to the voice in their head, the machine, which is what he's going to call it, the Garmin, okay? On the right-hand side, you're going to see Dwight, and he's going to be looking at what's actually going on in front of him in reality. And I want you, as you're watching this video, to ask yourself, as this is happening, when you hear the machine telling you what to do, are you going to be like Michael, or are you going to be like Dwight? Enjoy. How often does the voice in your head tell you something that you should do? Your brain tells you should take this action, and then right after you take that action, your brain goes, "What did you do that for? That's insane." That's like you ever go home and see somebody way too happy, and then your brain tells you, instead of creating a win-win environment and going, "Okay, I had a bad day, so let me find out how your day was so that I can take on your way of being." Our brain may not do that. Our brain may go, "Oh, well, let me shut this down as soon as possible because you're not happy, so I'm not going to be happy." Interesting, isn't it? All right. The next video that I'm going to show you is actually reality, and it's interesting. This is going to be a video that I took coming back from a preschool that I used to teach martial arts at up in New Jersey. And the interesting part is that this almost exact situation happened, and I'm curious to see if you would have gone down Michael's route or if you would have gone down Dwight's route. Let's take a look at this video. So this video is from a couple of years ago when I would go teach yoga karate at the Goddard School in Norwood, New Jersey. If you look up Norwood, Norwood, and you'll see it's in the topmost right-hand corner of upstate New Jersey, almost across the river from New York City. So I would teach 3 classes. I would teach a 2:30 to 3 class for the pre-K and the kindergarten kids that really didn't nap so much, or they got done napping around 2. I would teach a 3:15 to 3:45 class, and then I would teach a 4 to 4:30 class. I'd wrap up, say goodbye to the director, high-five all the kids, and I would then go across the street to Callahan Hot Dogs, used to be there, and I would get myself a hot dog and some water and maybe a chili, with some Gouda, really good stuff there, and take a ride home. I knew I had about an hour and a half ride, and I had my podcasts. I had my Netflix comedy specials already queued up so I can listen to them while I'm driving with the GPS on, because I created an expectation it would take me an hour and a half to get home, so I'm not going to get myself upset because I choose not to do that. The interesting part was I would see this happen every Wednesday to the point that I finally decided to record it. So my question is going to be for you is that are you going to be like Michael or would you be like me and like Dwight and you actually looked in front of you to see where the traffic is? Now in New Jersey they have what's called the easy pass lanes, okay, which on the top it says easy pass. You'll see every single lane is easy pass. Even the two lanes on the left, the express lanes, they're all easy pass. So every single person in the left lane has an easy pass. You have to or you can't go into that express lane, which means they can also choose to go into the right lane. Notice what happens, and I want you to really get how a human being gets stuck in patterns and gets programmed so that you can wake up, level up as a human being, and take on snapping out of your patterns so that you can benefit yourself and create a win-win environment in your heart, in your brain, and in your life, and in the classroom and the kids that you work with. This is very interesting. So here we are. The two left lanes are the easy pass lanes, and they're the express lanes. So look where all the traffic is. Here, it's not the easy pass. So I'm just going to pause and you can see. So see on the left, it says easy pass, and on the right, it says easy pass. But notice where everybody goes. Pass lane. So look, all the traffic is in the express lane. Everyone's going so much faster in the express lane. But there's I was living in Jersey at the time, so sarcasm was kind of like our conversation, but I think you're starting to see what I'm talking about. No traffic here, but they're all in the express lane. Why? Because the word says express. Now I pass by everybody because I actually look in front of me and I see that there's nobody in front of me. So I go forward because I look at reality as opposed to the construct of the mind. Interesting. Who would you be? Something to think about. I want to tell you a story about one of my first martial arts instructor, my first Sifu, which was a Kung Fu teacher. Now, I came from a Taekwondo background where it was a lot of big movements and I was learning how to, go back and forth in martial arts where you're going forward and when you're going back. And then I met my first Sifu, Tom. And the guy was about half my size. Didn't really know too much about Kung Fu, and at that time my ego was a lot more powerful and it was running me as opposed to the way that I am now, where I try to focus on having my ego not make decisions for me. And one of the things that he taught me was that your mind can travel anywhere. What does that mean? Well, think about this. When you sleep, where does your brain go? Where does your mind go? Your brain stays where it is, but your mind goes and travels somewhere and takes you to dream world. We don't really know where that is. Could it be another dimension? Could it be another multiverse? Could it be somewhere else? Not really too certain. But the mind moves throughout our whole entire body. And most of the time, our mind makes decisions because it's stuck in our brain. So for example, if a child comes up to you and goes, "I don't love you," so you can have a response where your brain goes, "How could you say that? How can you do that? Blah, blah, blah." And then you're automatically creating a win-lose environment, meaning you lose because you get upset and the child wins because he says, "I don't love you," which is probably not true and they're just trying to get attention from you or a response or reaction or something like that. So think about this. If you knew that you can make different decisions with your body, your life would be different. So what happened? So I'm training with my Kung Fu teacher. I'm going to get up just to demonstrate what happened. And he's in a stance just like this. And he tells me to come over to him and just, push him over a little bit. Now, I'm a big boy, 6 foot, over 300 pounds, former professional wrestler. At this time, I was pro wrestling. So I walked over to him and I said, "Not a big deal." And I put one hand on his shoulder and I just moved him a little bit. And then he just took a step back or two. And I'm like, "Okay, fine. What's the big deal? I got it." He goes, "Okay, good. Now give me one moment." And he goes like this. Like that. And then he tells me to move towards him again and try to push him over. So I come over, I take one hand, and I try to push him. He doesn't move. I take both hands, I push a little bit more. My muscles, my legs are starting to engage even more. And he's not moving. All of a sudden, I'm in a stance trying to move him, and he's not moving. So I said, okay, got it. I don't know what the deal is, but I'm interested. So he said, the first time that you moved me, or I had my mind in my brain. And I thought about that for a second. I'm like, okay, sure. Well, I don't know what that means. Your mind's in your brain all the time. He said, the second time I put my mind in my feet, and I connected and grounded to the earth, and all of a sudden, I wasn't able to move him. He said, your mind can travel wherever you put it. So for example, for you right now watching this, everybody think about your right big toe. Right? Yeah, now your mind just went there. Think about your left pinky finger. Now all of a sudden your mind went there. So there's different parts of the body that the mind can move through. In 1991, Dr. Andrew Armour, A-R-M-O-U-R, Canadian scientist, he discovered that the heart has its own intrinsic internal intelligence system. Say that 3 times fast. Intrinsic internal intelligence system. The heart sends more messages to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. How many of you have ever had a situation where you've made a decision with your heart and it turned out to be wonderful, as opposed to making a decision with your brain? What if that kid comes up to you and goes, I don't love you, and all of a sudden you get upset and you react with your brain, because your brain might be going like, how could you say that? How could you be so disrespectful? And what's really happening is the little 3-year-old inside of you, that trauma might be triggering. Maybe something happened when you were 3 years old and mom and dad got into an argument. Mom's like, I'm done, I'm leaving, I don't love you. And then all of a sudden maybe she said that to dad, or maybe she didn't even say those words and she left and she just needed to cool off, take a drive around, go to the store, grab a pack of ciggies or something, whatever it is. And then all of a sudden the 3-year-old doesn't understand what's happening. And the 3-year-old goes, mommy left, mommy doesn't love me. And then what happens is the brain does what it does. It takes a snapshot, and it takes a snapshot of traumatic heightened experiences, and then that becomes your truth. Because I know people in my life that they can't even get into a relationship or stay in a relationship because I'm sure they've had some sort of trauma like this in their past, and then now they don't believe that they're lovable. And then they don't allow other people to love them, as opposed to, like, if somebody's coming in and showing them love and showing them attention, their internal operating system, meaning like when you open up your phone in the morning, your operating system turns on. When you open up your computer, your laptop, your tablet, the operating system comes on. Your operating system turns on as soon as you wake up in the morning. And some people wake up and they start worrying about whatever because that's their operating system. So that person's operating system may have them believe that they're not lovable, and then they're not going to allow other people to love them. When I teach my yoga classes, I have kids do something called big hugs, where they give themselves a hug. Everybody try this. Give yourself a hug and breathe in and say, I love you, me, and just be with yourself. And if this feels good, lovely. Do it again. Breathe in and say, I love you, me. But sometimes I'll have kids that won't do that. Sometimes I'll have kids that go, I hate you, me, or they won't hug themselves. And that's a flag to let you know that there might be some trauma that you may want to work through. But if that teacher has that situation going on in her life or his life, then what's going to happen is they're going to get triggered, and their brain is going to start making up stories, and you're going to make decisions with your brain. How could you say that to me? You're so disrespectful, whatever it is. But imagine if you can drop into your heart. Imagine if you can drop into your heart, and instead of your brain making a decision, you now ask your heart, and your heart will go, this kid loves you. You know they love you. They're just trying to get attention out of you. You can even take your mind from your brain and drop it into your gut and use your gut and go, this kid probably went home. It's Monday morning. They went home on Friday. They talked to their 2nd grade brother like they do all the time, and their 2nd grade brother said, here's something new that you can try with your teachers. And then that teacher reacts differently. So you can be a teacher that reacts with your mind, with your brain in your mind, And you can get upset, or you can be a teacher that when a child goes up to you, goes, I don't love you. You can be the teacher that goes, well, it's okay that you don't love me today. I love you very much, and whenever you want to love me, you can. What do you want to work on today? And then all of a sudden the child is fine. Because we also let the child know that it's okay for them to be any way that they want, which is something that's also triggering. Because if you are a person that when you see a child that's upset and your go-to is to stop them from crying or stop them from being upset, try this on. You're being triggered because you're uncomfortable with what's going on, and you're giving your power away instead of allowing that child to do what that child is designed to do and express themselves, whether it's rage, whether it's upset, whether it's frustration, whatever it is. How many times have you ever wanted to really express yourself and somebody said, oh no, you can't do that. As a guy, I was taught that I'm not allowed to cry because then I'm blank, 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 blank. And my sister, younger than me, was taught that she's not allowed to be loud and hysterical and angry because that's not the way that ladies are. And all that was being taught by people who are triggered by the past, who are triggered by the past, who are triggered by the past. So just consider that it's okay for you to be any way that you want. And if you have an opportunity to make a decision and you notice something happening in your body, make a decision where you can interrupt the pattern, okay, and take yourself out of that so that you can drop into your heart and make that decision. For example, imagine if you're driving and somebody cuts you off, somebody drives in front of you. What happens? We as humans, oh my goodness, this person cut me off. I mean, if you really think about it, they're going so fast, they don't even know you exist. You're just another car in the line of other different cars, but we're human beings, so we're taught to make things about ourselves. So now you can respond with your brain and the inner child, and your inner child may go, there's not fair, no cutting, just like that, and then you may end up hitting your accelerator and driving right up to that person's bumper this close to let them know that they almost got into a car accident by almost getting into a car accident. That doesn't make sense. But if you're able to, for a moment, be a higher level human being, you get to be a human being that can maybe drop into your heart instead of getting upset at this person for driving quickly in front of you. You can maybe consider, I wonder if somebody got into an accident. I wonder if maybe their kid fell off the jungle gym. I wonder if maybe like their wife or somebody, like their water broke, or maybe there's a sale. I'm teasing. But that way you don't make a decision with your brain that could end up being oppositional and detrimental to you. And if you make a decision with your heart or even drop into your gut, and your gut's going to go, are you really going to go right up this person's bumper? Do you really want to pay another $300 a month for car insurance? Absolutely not. So noticing when you get upset is important. Because when you notice when you're upset or any way that you don't want to be, and by the way, remember, it's okay to be any way that you want, okay? If you feel like you're upset, be nice to yourself. Nice, N-I-C-E. Notice whenever you feel any way that you don't want to feel. Nice, investigate. What expectation did I create for this person or this situation? Did you create an expectation that these kids are going to love you every single day? You did that to yourself in your brain. Did you create an expectation that everyone's going to be respectful driving? You did that in your brain. And you should consider that people aren't always going to be the way that you want them to be. So notice when you're upset. Investigate what expectation did I create, and the C and the E in being nice is change the expectation. I expect people to be crappy drivers. I expect kids not to love me every single day. All of a sudden that expectation alleviates that pressure that you created on yourself, and notice how much happier you are. Considering that you can make decisions with your mind, in your heart, or in your gut, and making more of those decisions in life will have your life be tremendously more joyous, more happy, and definitely more win-win. This is one of my favorite videos to show because I love listening to this kid laugh. How many of you have a kid in your classroom that just has a laugh that once he gets going, if you allowed it, it would be something that would just bring pure joy and happiness to you and all the other kids in the class. Unfortunately, sometimes there are teachers, and I'm sure nobody watching this, but unfortunately, sometimes there are teachers that, don't want too much happiness in their classroom, or they allow their brain to make up a story going, I don't want these kids to get too riled up or too excited because I'm not going to be able to bring them back. And if you want a really good tool to be able to have kids re-engaged amazingly, look up my behavior mastery workshop or training, and it'll give you the pattern interrupts and the pre-frames that you need to have these kids re-engage immediately. So I want you to watch this child and just notice how you feel in your body. If you're feeling a joyous sensation of excitement and laughter and happiness for this kid, awesome. If something inside you is getting triggered so that you feel like you want to shut this down, my question to you is that working for you? Is that benefiting you? And have you been disconnected from your classroom for a long time? And whose choice is that? That choice is yours, so you get to have access to joy and happiness so that you can have a much more fun day, because you're there for 8-10 hours a day. Why not enjoy yourself and make a difference for these kids?
Ready? Yeah. Clap, clap, clap your hands, clap your hands together. Clap, clap, clap your hands together. Now we're gonna go faster. Are you ready? Yeah. Yeah?
I don't know. I think that kid is awesome. I love his laugh 100%. I see some of the other kids looking around like, what's going on? That child is fully self-expressed, and I truly hope that wherever that child is, no one has shut him down to take away his self-expression. My question to you is, if this was happening in your classroom, how would you respond? If this was happening at home, how would you respond? I allow this to keep on going because I love laughter, joy, play. It's wonderful. I want you just to think about this. Sometimes there's kids that just respond differently. Think about if you're in a circle time and one of the kids, let's say this happy little joyous bundle of wonderfulness, decides instead of sitting crisscross, he decides to lay on his belly and put his chin in between his hands, and now he's paying attention to you. Your brain may kick in and your brain may go, oh, you know what, this isn't supposed to be this way, this is supposed to be circle time, they're all supposed to be crisscross applesauce because I told them what to do. And then you're going into the other program of being right as a human being right, which means that when you feel like you're right, you have dopamine, oxytocin, endorphins, and serotonin, four chemicals from your brain, and they go into your body, and you feel good immediately about it, and you're making the other child wrong. What I want you to do is I want you to consider asking yourself 3 questions, and those 3 questions are like this. So this child goes and lays on their belly. Question number 1 is, can I still teach? So if this child is laying on their belly, but they're paying attention to you and they're looking at you, can you still teach? Yeah, you can. Okay, cool. Question number 2, can he or she still learn? So if the child is focused more on you and they're actually engaged, then they're actually learning more. Question number 3, can everybody else still learn? So if you're looking around the circle time circle and everybody else is paying attention, but this one child is sitting a different way, everybody can still learn, keep on going. If that child all of a sudden is laying on their belly and maybe they start clicking their feet or whatever the situation is, then it's different, and now all the other kids start doing it, then consider for a moment that maybe it's not something that is allowing you to teach, and then you can keep on going, right? So you stop and handle the situation. All right, I'm going to keep playing this. That kid did, gave him a little elbow. Why? I am okay with that. I'm okay with that because there are kids that don't know that it's okay to say no when someone wants them to hug them. Okay, I have workshops, I have taught classes where I have kids grab onto kids, and the other child that's getting squeezed is like their eyeballs are gonna pop out of their head because they were never told that you can tell somebody else no, and then you can actually have space. Okay, so what I offer you is that if you have a situation where there's a child and the child doesn't like to be hugged, you can tell the child that he or she are allowed to say no. What happens is we can have a situation where it's more joyous and happy as a whole, if that makes sense.
Everybody clap your hands, clap together. Everybody clap, and now you.
So, how do we get from our brain to our heart and interrupt that pattern? One of the best ways that works for me is something called cold breathing. It's a certain type of breath that tricks the body into thinking it's cooling down. And this is how we do it. First, you take your tongue, you put it behind the back of your bottom teeth like this. Okay? And then what we'll do is we'll do something called the Princess Bride test. So ready? Repeat after me, and if you sound like I sound, then you're doing the Princess Bride test correctly, and we're going to move on to cold breathing. Ready? So tongue behind the back of your teeth. Ready? Repeat after me. Love, true love, is a magical experience. Okay, nice. Now, so far, so good. If you're sounding like I'm sounding, here's the challenge. Ready? Repeat after me. Tongue behind the back of your bottom teeth. Ready, set, go. Princess Buttercup. Princess Buttercup. Okay, so if you said it like that, then you're ready for cold breathing. If you've never watched Princess Bride, highly recommend you go watch that movie. Only if you want a win-win situation, because you're going to feel wonderful, and whoever else that you're going to introduce to this movie is going to feel wonderful. So take your tongue, put it behind the back of your bottom teeth, and then take a big breath in with your mouth. And then breathe out. One more time. Tongue behind the back of your bottom teeth, breathe in. And breathe out. What did you feel? What did you feel happening? Did you feel that cooling sensation go over your tongue into your body? Did you feel a calmness or a release of stress, possibly even for 1 to 2 seconds? Maybe take one more. Like that. Now, put it all together. You get upset. You notice that you're upset. And then all of a sudden, you don't want to make a decision with your brain. Like maybe somebody says something that possibly usually triggers you, and you don't want to get upset because you know you're about to say something that's going to put a rift between your relationship. If that pops out, you're intentionally creating win-lose because now you know that concept. What I offer you is take that breath. Somebody says something to you to trigger you. You're always this, you're always that. Human beings use things like that. You're always, even though maybe like you're late once in a while, you're always late. Whatever the situation is. So you can get upset and then go, yeah, well, or you can go, and then that's it. And then the thought that's in your brain, just drop it right down, like a little slide, like a little, what's the thing the firemen use, the pole, okay? And all of a sudden it just drops down into your heart. And then the next things that come out of your mouth, say it with your heart. Maybe drop it down even further. Say it with your gut. Try it. Practice it. People are going to be there to push buttons. How many people in your life do you have that push your buttons? Right? What if I told you, there's no such thing as people pushing your buttons. Your belly button doesn't count. What happens is somebody says something to you, and then all of a sudden, this pops up right in your forehead. And they see it because all your micro expressions in your face, all the little changes. And then that person goes, oh, that's exactly how I can trigger them, push their button again. And then what happens is somebody else does the same exact thing and they see that response from you. And basically, just like that. And then a child comes up to you and says the same thing every day just to get on, because your face makes all these contortions. Just like that. I'm going to give you part 3 of my behavior mastery system real quick. It's called the power look. When somebody does something or says something to you to try to get a response or reaction, look at the top of their forehead And then I always sing, row, row, row your boat, just so that my full focus is on doing the power look as opposed to having the inner dialogue kick in. So that's all I ask you to do, is that make your face emotionless, because if I look at your eyes, then we reconnect. All right? That's a challenge, and feel free to be brave and just take on 51% of courage. And even if you have that 49% of fear, it's okay. Push through. Take an action. You got this. How many of you know what your love languages are? The love languages that each person has, that is a way to understand how they want to be appreciated and loved. The 5 love languages are acts of service, physical touch, gifts, words of affirmation, and quality time. Okay? The interesting thing is, if you understand your partner's love languages, then if you're someone that likes to receive gifts, but they're someone that likes words of affirmation, and you know that, then you can say words to them and they would appreciate you and connect with you more, as opposed to you buying them a little trinket or something, even though you like that. Same exact thing with some of your kids. If you understand the learning styles and the love languages of your kids, you'll be able to communicate with them better and also get better results to create a win-win environment. If you have kids that their love language is physical touch, then, high five will do. If you have kids that their love language is quality time, maybe just sitting down next to them and just watching what they're doing and observing and just being there is the love language that benefits them. I want you to watch this video. The video is of a little girl who is trying to break a board, and the situation is that the board has actually been set up where it's going to be extremely difficult for her to break. But see if you can figure out what her learning style is. Is it more auditory? Is it more visual? Or is it more kinesthetic? What do you think?
Todavía. Tienes que saludar primero. Saluda, párate. Dale.
Now notice right off the bat, she does what's instructed of her and she puts her foot on the board, but the board is not designed to break when it's on two sets of wood that far away. If those two sets of wood, those stacks of wood, were brought closer together, then there would have been more force for the board to break. So this is a situation where the child has actually been unintentionally set up to fail in this situation. Turns out to be a great video, but it's also something for you to consider when you try something with your kids and maybe you made a mistake in setting it up. Your ego gets to be put aside. You can stop making a decision with your brain going, well, they're just going to have to do it, or they're going to have to figure it out. And you can drop into your heart and go, you know what? This is a teachable moment. I made a mistake. I set this up wrong. And now the kids can learn it, because I believe that making mistakes is a beautiful thing. And we need to teach kids to make as many mistakes as possible.
Ticón. Ahora pisa.
Would have broke right there.
Mate, alguna, dale, rómpela. Yami, mira. Se cayó.
Did you see the force that teacher put on that board? And she brought the boards in closer, like I said before. But watch how they set it up again. It's so interesting. But notice how the child is just doing everything that the instructor is doing. Are you noticing it's visual? Are you noticing also it's a little kinesthetic?
Dale. Ponle el pie.
She's trying. What would you do at this point? Would you be getting frustrated, or would you still have the joy and the happiness that this teacher has because she's just doing her best?
Ayúdala. Otra vez, otra vez.
What do you think is going to happen? That sounds like win-win across the entire auditorium. I hope you enjoyed that video. All right, I know it's been an adventure because I've been here the entire way with you. And it's not easy to choose to try on a different mindset, especially since we've been programmed and conditioned in so many ways. And it's worth a shot. It's worth a shot to try to create more win-win environments and more win-win relationships. I offer you an opportunity to take this on, have 51% courage so that when a situation happens, you can consider being nice to yourself. Notice that when you're upset, you don't want to be upset anymore. Investigate, what expectation did I create? Change the expectation. Access happiness. Notice when your brain starts talking and you're about to make a decision. Take a cold breath. Drop into your heart. Use the pole that goes right down into the heart and just check in with yourself. Remember, we are all stuck in patterns. If I say up, you say, oh, excuse me. If I say left, you say, oh. If I say stop, you say, in the name of love. Listen, I wish that there was a way that you didn't have to go through all this experiences and just be able to reset yourself. You just proved to yourself that you were able to break out of a pattern in less than an hour. Notice more patterns. And all I want to do is leave you with this. If you can just pay attention to this light. Tremendous. You are powerful educators. You are the amazing champion for children. Your kids love you. You know they do. The impact that you make on them is so tremendous, so important. Whether these kids grow up to have normal jobs and loving families, or whether they become the next Elon Musk or the next Richard Branson because they have gifts and you allowed them to show their gifts with your patience. I, from the bottom of my heart, appreciate what you do. Thank you, and have an amazing rest of your day.